Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, we speak in English. How are you?
Speaking the English. Sprechen Sie English.
Welcome to English.
Well, like, how are you?
וואלכ, הכל בסדר. So, you
Ay, ay,
celebrated
ay.
4th of July. May the 4th
Yeah.
be with you.
Huh?
May the 4th be with you.
May the fourth be, may the Schwartz be with me. Yes.
So happy 4th of July.
Thank you, thank you. As happy as we can make it. Uh, but yesterday was a very interesting experience. So, typically, 4th of July. What we do is we grab the dogs, we take them to the basement because of all the loud fireworks. They don't like that. And we spend some time down here and we watch TV and all this and that. But yesterday was a little different. My friend Hardy, the drummer for most of my musical projects, invited me over to come over to his place and celebrate with them. And it's not just with them, it's with the whole family, plus all these families and their children from their neighborhood. And for the first time in a very long time, I was surrounded by that childish energy, which is something that I haven't experienced in a very long time, as you can imagine. I don't have any kids of my own. I haven't seen any of my nieces and nephews in a very long time, and they're no longer children. They're in their 20s and some of them in 30s, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was just something that was so unique and different. Um, and at the same time, kind of felt normal again, you know? So it was me being around with all of these families in the suburban neighborhood. Everyone was lighting up fireworks, and it was just a lot of fun. It took me back to, gave me kind of a sense of childhood again, returning to childhood. So at least that's how it felt. It felt great, something that I've missed. Um,
When you were on the
and
phone with me this morning, you were really all giddy and all cheerful. Now you are like talking about it,
no, now it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I came back around, what is that? Like around 1:30,
But it
very
was
tired.
a very great and energetic experience. That's why you wanted to make this episode about how did you frame it?
The return to childhood.
A return to childhood. That's the one. So that let's sort out the things a bit, and we can tie it with our last conversation, which was in Hebrew, but was about adulthood or maturity, and this is connected to independency, which the 4th of July is all about, right? Independent Day. But let's start with something that you've said. You said I was surrounded by childish energy. Let's change that to childlike. There's childish energy, or there's childish behavior, and there's childlike behavior. So when you are experiencing that, fresh energies around you, that joyful, almost carefree energy or just feeling,
Hmm.
we can definitely tie it to or call it childlike. Childish would be, that's immature.
Right, right. So it was very childlike energy.
Right.
It
And
was.
this is one of the key points here. Because, we grow up. Actually, society is pushing us to grow up, right? Telling us to, be more serious, have more patience, sorry, have a goal, all of those things that a child doesn't have. A child doesn't have goals. He wants to play with no agenda, with no particular end point. He just wants to play.
Mhm.
Children know not to have much patience, right? They want everything to happen. They're definitely not serious. They can be very serious, but they are also very, flexible, very fun-like, very amusing and amusement. So we are pushed by society to grow up fast.
Yeah,
And that
to do
leads
the
us
right thing, to walk in a straight line.
exactly like do the right thing, walk in a straight line, and that comes with with a payment or with there's the
Heavy price.
with a price exactly. There's the downside to it, which is the loss of our childhood, which means happiness, flexibility, carefree. All of these somehow are thrown out the window, and we become serious, we become goal orientated, we become very meticulous, and everything has to
Calculating.
do with logic. Everything has to be logical.
Yeah, yeah.
Nonsense, we don't do nonsense anymore, right? And that doesn't lead us to independency, it leads us to the opposite. It leads us to be subjugated to a certain agenda, a certain day to day, where we completely lose our individuum. What is individuality means? It means the piece that cannot be broken anymore. Individuum, you cannot divide that anymore. Which actually means the core of who you are. Not whatever you've taken from others, from society, copy paste. You should be like that, you should do this, you should behave like this, you should learn this. This we are copying from others. And then we create a false identity. And we are dependent on others to then tell us what to do, how to behave, where to go, how much money to earn, how many hours to work. We are getting into this rat race where we actually lose our independence. If you think about it, when we were
Losing your independence. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Um,
think
yeah,
about
I
it,
thought
when
about this a
we were
lot.
children, we really had, in one way, we had total independence, and on the other, of course, we didn't, because we were completely dependent on others to get us this, fix us that, drive us, feed us, everything. But we were total mind free. We were independent in our thought process, in our, the day was unstructured, and they started to structure it for us, and along the path we lost that independency. Isn't it funny?
Lost that independence. Yes.
Yes.
We, yeah, I do believe that we lost that. And I almost feel like it should be a goal to reverse that process, to create a little bit of chaos, leave to leave that structured environment that we have created for ourselves, which is essentially we've caused to ourselves. In other words, for the sake of pleasing everyone else around us, of not doing the right thing, of not acting the right way, being too childish, not structured enough, not this and that enough. In a world that has train tracks everywhere, it's hard to be a car.
Where did you hear
So
that?
the idea is, if you can be a car, step off the train tracks, like, because they're always going to be there. Step off the train tracks. Be yourself. Be who you are, as much as you can. Shake the tree.
Do you remember the story of Pinocchio?
Yes. Who doesn't?
where he is getting off the lines, off the strings, right? This is even in the
Right.
song. He's tied it with in strings.
אני
It's
יורד
like
מן החוטים.
exactly. And if you change it from chutim to pasim, then you can go off tracks. This is
Yeah,
actually what it means. You know, he's a puppet. He's being controlled, but then he's given life, independency, freedom, and then he does what he wants. He ends up running away. He ends up getting into tons of trouble, right? Like literally, like the entire story is just drama
trouble.
after drama, trouble after trouble.
Right.
But that comes from a free will. That comes from his choice. He decides to run away, and this is what you talk
To
about.
make some mistakes. To
Yes,
make some mistakes. To
this is the
experience
chaos
life.
that you've been mentioning.
Right.
You
There
know,
was what was that? So I made Alice in Chains. There's a band called Alice in Chains. So I made a big mistake. Somewhere I could be quoting the lyrics a little bit wrong, but I did it
oh,
all
I've
my way.
made a big mistake.
Right?
Yes, that's the exact
Something
lyrics.
that I
Yeah,
did exactly, but I
I
did it
think
all
it's
my way.
Wood, right?
Something like that.
The song Wood is called Wood. Yeah.
Right. But and I think it's important to make mistakes. Otherwise, you just don't learn. But it is important to also make mistakes on your own, learn on your own. Getting advice from other people is great. I'm always a huge proponent, yeah, of basically getting as much advice as you can from people who can give you good advice. People who have experienced something structural that will help you, um, but not diminish who you are. In
Yes.
other words, yeah, you take what you can from whoever has advice to give, and just use your best judgment on how to utilize that advice, and just move forward by still being yourself, not giving up on yourself, not giving up on your childlike identity of constant curiosity of what else is out there, and how do I stay off the tracks? How do I veer this vehicle all on my own? How do I still maintain a certain control that will keep me happy? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to have any kind of dependencies. You want to be independent. You want to be as independent as you can be. And a lot of this is human nature. It really is. But we do tend to forget that sometimes. And I think it's a good idea to just keep constantly reminding ourselves that we're individuals and that we should never forget our inner child.
You're
So,
right. And this where we talk about maturity, which is going from being childish, but to reincorporating that childlike energy by maturing and by taking more responsibility and therefore becoming more independent. It goes hand in hand because uh, you've met my mother. She's a wonderful person. I love her. You love her too.
yes.
But when I was growing up, she was adamant on minimizing any wrong thing that can happen to me. So she literally controlled my surroundings, my environment, my choices, even my friends. So I grew up with being very confined. And today I know how it served me and the benefits I got from it. But then I also was insecure for most of my teenager life and early adulthood, and I lost that childhood. I literally lost my childhood. My childhood was very confined. So I compensated that later on in the years, and then I could not only do things from a more mature perspective and therefore avoid maybe some mistakes or hardship that comes with being a teenager, but I could appreciate what it means having that child within and allowing it to constantly being present in our day-to-day. Because what happened to me when I was a child, because I was suffocated and I was controlled, actually that child was always with me, you know? Because I wasn't allowed to go through a lot of experiences, I couldn't mature in them. So that child kept on walking with me throughout my
Wanting to break
adulthood.
out,
And that was also
break free.
positive because, you know, I always felt that child in me, and I always gave it expression. And especially when my own children, when I became a father, which is amazing, and which is one of the things that I tell people that feel depressed, that are in post-trauma and are waking to their post-trauma and to you know, they want positive change in their lives. I literally tell them, spend time around children, because that will invoke your inner child, and your inner child is the one that experienced trauma, that, you know, is behind walls, that is not allowed, or that it wasn't allowed to be fully expressed. So spend time around children. Now, make sure you're not overstepping your boundaries, you know, don't be a gargoyle like this with the children. Just be present with them, just, you know, allow them to play around, just like you experienced. Maybe you can share some of that experience that you had.
Yesterday, with those children, I was running around, being no different from any of them, popping fireworks left and right, and putting the fireworks down. Hey, do you have the lighter? Sure, give me the lighter. Okay, psst, lighting it up. Okay, run, 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 run. Boom, and uh, that was fun. And here's the thing, back home, you and I, Israel, right? When we spent our childhood back home in Israel, we, we never had access to fireworks, right? That is kind of a game changer. Here in America, kids do, but in Israel, we did not. We were deprived of using fireworks,
Well,
right?
look, we lived in an environment that had different types of firework
Yeah,
constantly, right? Explosions, bombings, you
even
know.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this
So
is also the reason why it's
probably,
prohibited in Israel. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, for kids to have that, access to something as exciting as fireworks is first of all amazing. So to me, it was my first time, and I even told some of the people over there, some of the parents, and my friend who invited me over. I said, "Wow, it's like we never had fireworks when I was growing up, so this is pretty cool." So, and I never let myself do that after I got here, because when I got here, already as an adult, well, more or less 26, I don't consider that to be an adult, but when I got there, I was already in a different mind state. It was like, okay, so this one thing that I was deprived of doing when I was a kid, I'm not going to do that right now because it's childish. So I'm just going to do adult things that an adult would come to America to do. Right? So now, only now at the age of 45, I get to, use fireworks for the first time. And oh my God, it's like, boom, here's a reminder. So I was having fun yesterday, and this childlike energy all around me really did make me feel a lot younger and sillier, and just jumping around, just laughing, not having a care in the world.
Now
So this was a lot of fun to experience.
there's a song about from Mati Kaspi, the Israeli sing-songwriter, and it goes Zot ילדותי השנייה. This is my second childhood.
Second childhood, yeah.
Now I've literally experienced that twice with my two sets of boys that have such a big uh, age gap between them. I've experienced a second childhood and a third childhood always with my younger children, And I tell you, this was not only an amazing time, but also a very creative time, because children don't have that barriers, that mental barriers. They literally live outside the box, right? And we hear that constantly: step outside your box, break the glass ceiling. What does that always tell us from all those mental guides and teachers? They are telling us, reshape your reality by stepping outside your boundaries, because the boundaries are the perceptions that our brain has, that how we see the world. And children don't have them because they are just developing that. So when we are spending time with children, we literally have a chance to step into a different world, into a different reality that surpasses our own. And I'll tell you another amazing story that happened to me just a year plus ago. I was visiting my parents, and they have a garden. It used to be a garden, but nowadays is all cement.
Are you
And
talking about the front of the house?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
there is like a wooden structure that you can either sit on or whatever, and the fence, right?
Right. Right.
To the neighbors. So I'm standing on that, so my head is just above the fence. And there is a pathway that goes between my parents and the neighbors the back door neighbors, and there's a gate. So I'm standing there, just looking out of the fence, looking over at the street. And then I suddenly see that older man, not that old, I don't know, 40 plus, 50 plus. He steps out of his house, he goes through to the gate, and he passes me. He's smoking a cigarette, he's coughing, he's on his phone. He passes just under me, and he has to press the button that is just under my chin in order to open the gate. Totally oblivious to the fact that I'm there. He's not seeing me at all. Oh, that's interesting, I'm thinking.
You are very hard to miss. How did he miss that? I don't know.
Very hard to miss. Not a minute goes by, and other neighbors are coming. This time, a mother and her child. The mother is busy on the phone. She's holding the child's hand, and the child is constantly talking to her. Blah, 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 blah. And as they stop under me so they can press the button to open the gate, the child sees me. And suddenly his eyes are like this. And he stops talking, and he looks at me like that. He sees somebody like that overlooking him, and he looks at me like that. And then they pass, they go out of the gate, and I hear him whispering to his mother, "Mom, who was that?" And she goes, "Who was what? Who was whom?"
Who was
"That
it? Yeah.
man, that man over there, who was it?" And she's like, "What man? What are you talking about? Get inside the car." And then it hit me. Then it hit me right there and then. It's not that children see things that don't exist. It's
The parents that
parents or older people
are
that
not
don't
present.
see things that exist. And
Yes.
that answers to you the entire story of the children telling his parents that there is a monster under the bed or in the closet, right?
Wow. Okay. That explains it. Just children, I guess, when you are less structured, like a busy parent, okay, who's constantly putting all the efforts and then trying to justify those efforts, will always tell you, well, you're a child with nothing better to do. Thank you, first of all. Uh, but man, it's a child, a basically a personality, a body, something that is completely uncorrupt or has not yet been corrupted by the world, right?
Listen,
Uh, experiencing things in the raw form of exactly for what they are as they appear in a physical form, the way things are in this world. Whereas an adult has been so heavily distracted by all of the different things that have been, pulled over their eyes. Now, it's not some kind of a, magic or, illusion. No, being an adult is definitely not an illusion, and the world can be very, very overwhelming for us. But man, um, it's so easy to get lost in that, right?
Yeah.
And man, we
But then,
need,
if we take exactly that and break
right?
it down, so we say, okay, we want to be more childlike, not childish, but more childlike. What does it mean? What it actually means is being less preoccupied by outside things, being more inwardly, being more in present with what I am doing right now, not with million things, not with million thoughts all going at the same time, not distractions like my phone or cigarette, right? Like, I'm just talking about the story that I've just shared. It literally means be more open, more perceptive, you know, do one or two things at the same time, not 5 or 10 or 15. Just that by itself allows the world suddenly to open up.
and I think that being in the moment has something to do with that. For us as adults, the teaching of being in the moment, I think, has a lot to do with us eventually being able to reach our inner child, you know, because essentially that's what children do. They still don't have all that structure that their parents constantly try to, pour into their brain. Structure, be like this, be like that, do this, do that, be successful, be healthy, be happy, be that, 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 that. Happiness sometimes means opening your eyes in the morning and even sometimes being completely aimless, even going and just not doing things for the sake of having an aim, but doing things for the sake of feeling and appreciating being alive
Yeah,
and
of enjoying
experiencing
what you
new
do. Yeah,
yeah, and experiencing new things because you had the ability to just be in the moment, to be aware, right? That's what children do. They don't have too many distractions.
exactly.
And I personally believe that if we are to free up some more time to just be, we would be happier people.
Yes, you've said that, and it's true. It is about happiness. It is something that I've said, and you keep on reminding me simplicity, right?
Yeah.
Children are more simple, they're less structured, less complicated, things are simpler. So when
Yeah.
we touch base again with those things, simplicity, you know, then we get into happiness. We find happiness again.
Yes, we find happiness in simplicity. And it's like I mean, we've had an episode in Hebrew that's called The Return to Simplicity. And this is a subject that we constantly kept touching on is the return to simplicity. So the return to childhood in a sense is not that far off. It's not that different. And that's something that we need to keep reminding ourselves just to remind ourselves just not to get trapped, not to be on the same set of rails all the time and just constantly move forward and be happy, with simplicity, with
You're
just
right.
being our childlike self.
You're right. So let's start wrapping up things. So
Yes. And
if we can, leave our audience and viewers with something tangible, something that they can really start to work with. So we said, put yourself in the environment of kids, you know. If I'm sure if you're a parent, if you have your own children, This is something maybe that you don't want, but generally, when I'm in a playful environment, right? Playful environment, that's the key. When I'm in a playful environment where there are less restrictions, less rules, less goals, this is something that invokes happiness and creativity, right? Simplicity is something that evokes happiness and creativity. So if you can even structure it into your weekly day-to-day
Schedule.
agenda, or however it's called, right? Schedule, weekly schedule. Like build in even tasks where like you task yourself with doing something aimlessly,
Non-productive.
non-productive, or even if it's like it could even be productive but without structure, formless productivity. For example, let's say that you want to make that you're hungry, so you make yourself one day a week, one meal a week, that you don't plan it. You just open up the refrigerator, you see what's there, and you're starting to play with what's there.
Yeah, anything like that.
Yeah.
Anything that's really creative, and it doesn't have to be structured. You can just create, be in the moment, and enjoy it. And always ask yourself, what would a child do? And then you're answering yourself, you know what? Probably nothing. So I'm just gonna do. Okay, I'm just gonna open up the fridge. I'm hungry. Oh, I see this. That looks edible. I'm gonna grab that. What is this? It's a brush. Oh, okay. Let me just paint something here really quick. Just step outside your door, in the middle of even sometimes during a busy day. Guess what? It's lunchtime. You have a half hour. Your food is in the microwave already. Open that door. Put the pen down. Put the pencil down. Put down your tools. Take off your apron. Put down the utensils. Whatever it is that you're doing at that moment, close the laptop for a second. Get your eyes off of it. Go outside. Look at the sun. Smell the air. Touch the tree. Pick up a rock. Throw it at something just to hear what kind of noise it will make, right? Like experience, experiment, be aimless, but use your instincts. Use your instincts to basically bring you back the childhood that you once had. And to our audience, I wish you all the best of luck, viewers and audiences. If you like what you hear, if you like what you see, please feel free to leave us a comment. Maybe you can give us some ideas as far as what you would like for us to talk about in the next episode. We would love to hear from you. We love you very much. Like, share, and subscribe. You take care, and don't forget your inner child.